What is up, nerds? It's Pat from the Nerds You're Looking For podcast. Today I want to talk about a very, very controversial game. But before we get started, if you want to see more of these review videos, live streams, all that good stuff, hit that subscribe button, ding that bell, smash that like button. All three of those things really, really help us out a lot. So the game that I want to talk about today is Alien Blackout. And like I said in the intro, it's very, very controversial. So people loved Alien Isolation when that game came out. It definitely has a very die-hard, loyal fan base, and they've been clamoring for a sequel for a while. Finally, they announced that we would be getting a sequel to that, but unfortunately, it's a mobile game. People loved to hate on this game, and rightfully so. I mean, I just feel like it's so stupid for them to finally give these fans what they want, which is a sequel to a game that they really loved, but to do it as a mobile game just felt really, really lazy. So they kind of got what they deserved, but I want to talk about whether or not the game ultimately deserves some of the hate. So let's jump into Alien Blackout. So like I said, this is a sequel to Alien Isolation. You're back as Amanda Ripley, and there's a new crew that comes aboard, and your goal is to help them survive. They're being hunted by this alien, this xenomorph, and you basically have to help them survive. The gameplay itself is pretty simple, which isn't surprising considering it's a mobile game. It kind of plays like a very simple RTS game. You don't have all of the bells and whistles that you would expect from an RTS game, but as far as the actual gameplay itself is a very simple version of one of those games. Essentially, you are playing as Amanda, but for the most of the game, you're playing almost as like a godlike creature that's kind of looking over these people and telling them where to go so they don't get killed by this alien. So yes, you are playing as Amanda Ripley, but you're playing as kind of this RTS format. The gameplay itself is pretty simple, like I just said, but there's actually a lot of depth to this game as far as the mechanics are concerned. There's a lot of things that you have to think about as you're trying to beat these levels. There's a lot of things to juggle as you play each one of these levels. So each level of this game have different objectives. And the way that you obtain these objectives is basically taking your crew one at a time or as a group, depending on the level, and trying to get these objectives. But of course, you have the xenomorph that's hunting these people and yourself, and you have to basically guide them to the objective without getting killed. You can track the xenomorph in a few different ways. You can use motion sensors, you can use the cameras, you can open and close doors, but all of those things take power. So that's another thing. Not only do you have to get the crew to the objective while also keeping track of the alien, but you also have to keep track of how much power you have. When the alien does catch up to your crew, you can either have them run away, you can have them hide. I generally found that running doesn't really do anything because, as you might suspect, the alien is a lot faster. So if you just run away from it all the time, it's just going to catch up really quickly and kill you. So I found that I hid a lot, but generally it's just best if you stay away from the alien. I found this mechanic, and maybe this is something that they'll fix in updates, but I found that the alien AI a lot of times would want to go through a door instead of going on the ducts, which once it got into the duct system, it was really, really hard to track it. So generally I would try to keep it in the open and just kind of open and close doors to kind of trick it, because if you close the door, it's going to walk away and try to get into the duct. But if you open it, it's going to be like, ooh, a door, and it kind of goes through. But if you just kind of open and close, open and close, open and close, it'll just keep walking back and forth. And I found that was kind of the easiest way to kind of trick the game and get most of your objectives and most of the levels. But of course, you're also Amanda. You're also juggling the fact that you're also taking place in this game as well. So you have to learn to remember to protect yourself, which is something that I tended to forget a lot, because you're playing this game and you're playing on this device and you're basically moving all these chess pieces around, it feels like, and shielding them from the alien, and you forget that you're also on this board, essentially. Your command center is part of the duct system. So if you're not paying attention, a lot of times when the alien goes into the vents, it will come and chase you down and get you. And I died a lot because I would just forget as I was playing the game that I also had to protect myself, which wearing headphones is a must in this game, because once it gets into the vents, the only way that you can close the doors or know when to close the doors is if you're wearing the headphones and listening. I would also suggest playing with a stylus, like an Apple Pencil or something like that, because many times to get the crew members to do what you want to do, you have to select them and then like draw a path that they need to walk on. And I have sausage fingers, so a lot of times it was really hard. I was playing mostly on my phone, and it was really hard for me to draw the correct path with my sausage fingers. And to be honest with you, I was actually kind of digging this game a lot more than I thought I would. Unfortunately, the biggest downside to this game, other than, of course, it being mobile, if you don't like that, is the fact that it's just terribly short. It just feels like once I started getting into this game, it was over. Kind of behind the curtains a little bit. I was planning on getting this game the first day that it came out on Friday, playing it a little bit Friday at work, playing it a little bit on Saturday. I usually shoot these videos on Sunday afternoon after we record the podcast. So I honestly, after we were done with the podcast, I forgot that I didn't even play the game. I hadn't even downloaded it. And I was like, oh shit, I'm not going to be able to review it because there's no way in a couple of hours I'm going to be able to knock this game out enough to actually digest it and talk about it on a review. So I was like, well, I'm going to have something else to talk about on Wednesday's video, and maybe I'll review this the following week. So I started playing it a little bit while I was kind of trying to think of other ideas for Wednesday's video, and I kind of got like 45 minutes into it, and I realized, as gamers, you guys know that you can kind of tell sometimes when a game is kind of winding down, and I could kind of figure that this game was winding down only like 45 minutes into it. Really, honestly, once you get the hang of it, it's really kind of rinse and repeat most of the levels, so it really should only take you about an hour to bust this game out. It's really terribly short, which is a shame because the gameplay is really tight. Like, when you ask the characters to do something, they do it immediately, so it works really well. And that kind of goes back to what I was talking about with the simple gameplay. It kind of gave the developers more time to make sure all that stuff was tight. The music, the atmosphere, everything is done really, really well. It's just so short. So I'm going to go back to the question that I asked at the beginning of this video. Does Alien Blackout deserve the hate that it got? And I know that this is going to be kind of a cop-out answer, but I'm going to say yes and no. I say yes because they should have known better to not give us a sequel to a game that's so beloved on the fucking mobile platform. I like mobile games more than most. I can take them for what they're worth. I do enjoy them. I have a lot of downtime at work, and so mobile games do kind of get me through boring days at work. So I do appreciate them for what they are. But you should have known better that people were going to shit on this game just because it was a mobile game. Way before they even played it, they were going to hate on it because it was a sequel to the game that they've wanted a sequel to for a long time, but you gave it to them as a mobile game. But I also say no because, honestly, if you could take it for what it's worth, it's a pretty cool concept. I just think that they did themselves a disservice by making it a sequel to Alien Isolation. It was almost like they wanted the cash grab from that game, the name recognition from that game. They could have made this into the Alien franchise and could have made it something completely separate, and I think that people would have really loved this game. Despite being really, really short, I think that people would have really enjoyed this game if it had nothing to do with Alien Isolation. If you would have just given us a AAA sequel to that game and then given us this mobile version, I think that people would have really, really loved it. Because again, despite being short, I think it's a really good game. So out of 5 stars, I'm going to give Alien Blackout 3 stars. Too short for 3.5 or 4 stars, but the gameplay is solid. Simple but solid. The atmosphere is really cool, especially the music. So I do recommend playing this game. Give it a shot. It's only a couple of bucks on the iOS store, and it'll kill an hour or two. And at the end of the day, that's all I really ask for mobile games. As always, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that subscribe button, ding that bell, smash that like button. And of course, I'm going to put all the links to everything else, the Nerds You're Looking For podcast, in the video description below. For Patrick Kuhn, I am the Nerd You're Looking For. Take it easy, nerds.